again, we're delighted that all of you are here. As all of us know, state and federal legislation is driving new policies and investments with regard to our opportunity to not only enhance but advance some of the efforts that we're doing locally. In fact, just yesterday, as an aside, I was in the beautiful city of Oswego, where I met with Congresswoman Underwood of the 14th District and Mitch Landrieu, Senior Advisor to the President and Coordinator for the Infrastructure and Jobs Act, in charge of pushing the $1.2 trillion of money supported and to the local level. So it was a pretty cool discussion. Some of you, certain Mark Pruitt and others, know that we've already received about $5.5 billion. We expect another $6 billion through competitive grant programs. So we're excited today. And at the state level, of course, we're going to be talking about CEJA, the Climate Equity Job Act. And no better person to do so than Mark Pruitt, who will be our first speaker, with two topics that stem from CEJA and also talks about changes and opportunities. Now, first, I want to welcome a gentleman who some of you may recognize, who's on screen at the Metropolitan Mayors Caucus offices. He is the new executive director of the Metropolitan Mayors Caucus. His name is Neil James. This is his first Energy Committee and Environment Committee meeting. He is now, I believe it's day 6, is it, Neil? On the job, day 7 maybe?
It's actually day 8, but
day 8, well, what the hell?
6, 8,
yeah, 6,
it's all the same.
So Neil, do you want to say a few words? By all means, the floor is yours. We've got a great group. Neil joins us from an illustrious career in the, how do we say this, COG world, Council of Governments world, and we're delighted that you're spending time with us today. So Neil, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Burns. It's definitely my pleasure and my honor to definitely welcome everyone here today, and also be a part of the Energy Subcommittee today. This is my first time as on the Energy Subcommittee, but I've been a part of the Environmental Committee for many years, and as a member of the West Central Municipal Conference and the West Cook County Solid Waste Agency. So definitely I look forward to working with all of the members that are here today, and all the communities, and it's definitely a team effort. So Cheryl and Edith here, it's definitely a team effort, and we're looking forward to working and continuing the great work that the Mayor's Caucus has definitely put forth thus far. So thank you, Mayor Burns, and look forward to a wonderful meeting today.
Thank you. Now, if everyone didn't notice that Cheryl, Edith, and Neil are in a highly sensitive SCIF at the Metropolitan Mayor Caucus. It's highly secure. They're not allowed to leave there until they're authorized to leave there. It's top secret. There's pictures of Dick Cheney on the wall. No one knows what's going on. So that's a hell of a view you guys got there, man. It's like, wow.
Mayor Burns, you're the only one that can get us out of here. So.
That's right. Well, enjoy your life. So, ladies and gentlemen, Mark Pruitt is the Clean Energy Advisor to the Metropolitan Mayors Caucus. He is principal with Power Bureau, an energy consultant firm. Mr. Pruitt teaches energy policy at Northwestern University and has appointments with IIT and Argonne. He was formerly director of the Illinois Power Agency, and long ago, ready for this? He aspired to be a high school science teacher and civics teacher, but discovered, and these are his words, he does not like other people's children. So we have the pleasure of working with Mark Pruitt.
To share that.
I know, isn't that great? Isn't that great? And what turns out that nobody liked him either, so what the hell? But before we toss it to Mark, I'm going to invite Edith Makra to comment on some context regarding Mark's presentation today. So Edith, it's all yours, then we'll go right to Mark.
Sure. And Mark, I mean, you can start your presentation. What I wanted to do before you talk about the Energy Academy is give some context. So if you want to get to that slide, I'll cut in and share some thoughts on that. Energy Ambassadors Program, can I go ahead and say a few things?
Sure, please do.
Sure. So the Energy Ambassadors Program really it's our, in some ways, our last hurrah with ISEF funding that we have received. We've been spending almost 3 years now learning about the municipal role in promoting energy efficiency and improving energy literacy. The ISEF program that has provided this funding for our work, and we'll talk a little bit more about it, will be ending. And Cheryl and I and Kevin brainstormed what we could do with this last round of funding to make a meaningful impact. And so we wanted to build capacity where we can't be doing the education and get involved. We wanted to shift more knowledge and, if you will, responsibility for the municipalities to engage directly with some of these energy programs as they evolve. And you'll hear from the presentations today that they're coming up fast and furious. So some of the policy and the markets and opportunities as they emerge, just context setting is what we hope to do with this proposed Energy Academy. So Mark will talk more about the details of it, but that's the purpose, and we're needing your input today in terms of how we design that. But this will probably be a one-time opportunity with this last round of ISEF funding, which ends in June. So putting it together, designed to help you, and I'll turn it back over to Mark. We'll ask you some questions about your participation via Zoom poll, but that's the context setting.
Great, thanks, Edith, and thank you, Mayor and MMC for inviting me here today. I have a very brief presentation. I'm fairly informal. If you have a question, might be safe to pop it into the chat. I know that Cheryl's really good at monitoring that. I'll try to keep an eye out as well, but no promises. I still can't multitask on Zoom, so forgive me. If I really miss you and you really need something, just pipe up and say something verbally. So the agenda today is 2 items. One is the Energy Ambassadors Program, which Edith provided some context. The second is the community-driven community solar opportunity that we're tracking on. And for both of these, we'd like input, right? I'm not telling anybody to do anything. I just think that there's some opportunities here to make it change it from an opportunity into a positive benefit for the members. We need your input. So that's the purpose of the presentation today. So what we are talking about with the Energy Ambassadors Program is a set of online courses that are focused on energy issues. I will be the instructor. With online, we can scale up or scale down for size, but we really want to provide municipal staff or sustainability commissioners or electeds the ability to get some in-depth instruction and understanding perspective about the energy markets here in Illinois. And once we do that, we're going to move over towards the latter part of the curriculum and talk about what municipalities can actually do. You know, where can we dive deeply and be very impactful through the municipal channel. So the diagram here is just to give you a sense of how the classes are going to be broken up. Or have a couple of classes on energy markets, just so you understand how the system works. It's kind of invisible, except for the wires in your meter, but we'll talk about how that market works, how prices are set, what does deregulation mean, kind of give you that environment of operations. Then we'll move to energy policy. We'll talk IIJA, the Infrastructure Act. We'll talk about the Inflation Reduction Act. Those are going to be very impactful in terms of generating funds for a wide array of projects. Then state policies, FEJA and CEJA. We'll then move on to sustainability and talk in depth about, what does that really mean and how do you come up with a definition? And then how do you build a plan of achievable goals, right? It's fine to get the goals, but getting a roadmap that gets you towards those goals might be a higher value. So we're going to focus on that kind of practical step-by-step of, hey, we want to reduce our carbon footprint by 30%. That's terrific. How do you do it? So we're going to think through and work on how communities can work through a series of decisions that will guide them towards certain options within the market. And then lastly, we'll do a deep dive on utility programs, energy efficiency, renewable energy, and transportation. So that's the proposal, right? We're thinking 6 to 8 classes, about 90-minute per class, online, maybe one class every week, every 2 weeks. We could start sooner, we could start later. These will all be recorded, so they'll always be able to reference back. But no cost to run through this. But I'm going to draw on a lot of information and class materials that I've already prepared and used, and I think works pretty well at Northwestern and University of Illinois Chicago and IIT. So, I mean, it's not going to be a spoon-fed. There's going to be some good work to be done, but I think we can move folks up the scale very quickly to be informed, so that they can then ask the right questions and come to the right types of strategies for their own communities. So this is, I think, what Edith mentioned earlier, that we're trying to kind of beef up the capabilities of the folks who are interested in this sector, and this seemed like a good way, or one way to start. So. Edith, do you have anything to add? I mean, I really didn't want to be too prescriptive here, right? I was just trying to give the general concept.
Yeah, we have a polls just to ask about, I guess, general interest, but in terms of designing and scheduling, let's get the polls going just to get some feedback. We do have a good crowd here.
Mark, for what it's worth, I think this is a fantastic opportunity.
Oh.
And I guarantee you there will be people flocking to this opportunity, not only because of the topic matter, but specifically because of you. And I'm grateful for your time and effort on this, so thank you.
So the first question is just about participation, and if you're of not interest, you can answer 0, but we're wondering, just for capacity, if you thought how many people might want to attend and then who. We are believing it will be open to whatever suits you, whether it be commissioners or staff or elected officials. If that other person would put something in the chat, please let us know who that might be. We know we have a few friends who are not serving in a municipal capacity now, and that's great. This will be targeted towards the municipal audience for sure.
Oh, and I was just looking in the chat, and I'm glad Ben made a comment, and Kevin, I'm sorry, Mayor Burns.
Kevin.
This is not just for municipalities served by Commonwealth Edison. I think this might be a good, might have some value for municipalities that operate their own municipal utilities, or any community that may be served by a cooperative. I don't think there's very many in this area, but this is not just super specific to ComEd. So didn't want anyone to feel excluded.
Right.
So we'll end the poll and share the results. So it looks like we've only got one person who won't attend, and that's perfectly fine. So there's quite a few people who would like to attend, and we're thinking staff, commissioners, and a few elected officials. I guess the next question, we don't have this terribly well structured, is about scheduling and time commitment. So you may know, Mark, you want to talk a little bit about sort of your existing schedule and how much time you think each class might be? We want to make sure that this is at the right level of depth for you.
Right.
So let's talk about, what you do.
Yeah, I think that the one way to think about this from my timeline standpoint is, maybe an evening time slot might make the most sense. I know for a lot of folks, Mondays and Tuesdays are a little logged, so maybe we aim for a Wednesday. I'm open to Saturday mornings as well. I usually set that time aside for some office time, but I don't want to make that the default for everybody. So maybe a Wednesday evening schedule might work. And it doesn't have to be every week. We can space this out. I still think it's probably 6 to 8 classes, just to get through all the material. And we want to get through the material in a manner that it builds, so that the benchmark baseline stuff is at the beginning, and then we get far more specialized towards the end. I don't think there's going to be any grades, but we do want people to participate. We want people to attend. If they can't attend, then we'll record it so you can make it up. So this isn't meant to really be a huge drain on your time. I don't even think we're going to talk homework. I will provide a lot of
We're talking homework, Mark.
resources. Oh, okay. I stand corrected. There'll be a final. There's not going to be a final, but there will be some readings, and the readings are there to, A, give you the information, but B, to let you know where these resources reside, so you can go in the future. If you want to know about PJM, show you how to find out about PJM. If you want to find out about the Illinois Commerce Commission, show you how to do that. So there will be a lot of opportunities to do your own research. And I think, one concept we spoke about was maybe breaking individuals into small groups and have those small groups work on a solution paper, a memo maybe, for something that they're really interested in. Say you've got 4 or 5 different community representatives that are very interested in community solar or energy efficiency programs for their town or village or city. What we could do towards the end is structure and have an assignment that guides them through the process of what questions to ask, what type of data to collect, and then help them form their formal recommendations, to enhance energy efficiency or community solar or some other, very specific, very credible type of policy outcome. So those are the types of things. We don't want this to be theoretical. There will be some theory, but we really wanted to, at the end, make sure everybody's very comfortable that they understand how things work and empower them to move forward, to put forward some viable ideas before their commissions, their boards, and their residents.
So we don't have one more Zoom poll for scheduling preferences, but I did put in the chat, if you could give us some thoughts about the times that might work for you. That's why we wanted to know if it was sustainability commissioners who tend to meet in the evening or staff who might prefer a daytime. So please just tell us what time would be, time of day would work for you.
Yeah, lots of folks are chiming in. Lunchtime seems to be a good time.
Sure.
Yeah, lunchtime is emerging, so.
Yeah, amazing.
Do a lunch and learn. That's fine.
Yeah. And of course, every week we will choose a new destination to travel to for the lunch, so that'll be fun. Courtesy of the Metropolitan Mayors Caucus, right, Neil?
Okay. One thing I was going to say, though, in regards to timing, I look at the chat and seeing that lunchtime is coming out. I think that probably explains the fact that a lot of municipalities have evening meetings, either board meetings or the commission meetings. So it looks like that's winning out. So I'm assuming that's probably why. So it doesn't conflict with other meetings that are already scheduled. So.
Great.
So then the other thing, any feedback on Mark's idea about sort of working on a project in your community? Feel free to respond to that in the chat. We have a pretty big crowd, Kevin. I don't know if we want to take people off mute and answer questions, but raise your hand if you have something to say about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think anyone should chime in. My only caution from an elected official's position, and perhaps most deferential to professional staff, is that if we have the turnout that I expect with regard to participating in this academy, we have to be careful that those who, quote, graduate from the academy aren't under the false assumption that they now can steer public policy without working with professional staff, elected officials, etc. Right. That's the only caution I have.
Sure. I think we'd probably call on the municipalities to make sure that if their commissioners are trained, they still have a structure that works in terms of advancing. It's just, I started the Energy Subcommittee because I couldn't keep up with energy policy, and I don't know how you guys can do it. So this idea is just to build a little capacity and knowledge.
Absolutely, yes.
So I think that idea of, before we can ask for municipal approval, make sure that a manager or mayor signs off on anyone from your community that participates, and that you can establish the best communication for that information.
Exactly.
So we like the case study idea. That's great. And then the only thing that I'll say on scheduling, it looks like lunchtime is emerging. If you want to object strongly to that, please do it now in the chat. Otherwise, I think we might adapt the course schedule, you know, to an hour lunchtime, Mark, and just maybe stretch that out a tad. And I think that's great for in terms of people's attention and participation. The next question, which also we don't have a Zoom poll for, but in terms of starting this, we actually thought we might defer until after the start of the year, but it depends on how free. If you can do this once a week, we'll still make it in the springtime to get things finished. We could space it out and do it every other week so that the burden isn't too great. So if you have any thoughts on frequency and then starting, if you're anxious to start, you don't need a lot of discussion in your community about who gets involved. We can get started in December, otherwise probably defer to the beginning of the year.
Okay.
We will do it in Zoom, by the way. There will be not in-person meetings, so this will all be on Zoom. We may do a field trip, but much like we have for the Environment Committee in November, we're going to Gas Technologies Institute, so that we just make glom onto something that we're doing as an Environment Committee. But yeah, this will all be on Zoom and scheduled at your leisure. You can be off camera and munch your lunch while Mark teaches us.
Great. Oh, I'm sorry, Edith, I hit the button.
I think we're good on discussion for Energy Academy. The only thing is if someone wants to nominate a better name, we had two ideas. I don't remember the first one. What was the first
I
one?
think the first one was Energy Ambassadors.
Energy Ambassadors.
Energy Academy.
I think with regard to a potential new name or any name or affirmation of what we suggested, just either throw it in the chat or send an email separately. Because yeah, there's probably some pretty clever names out there, but
Okay. Great. Thank you, everybody.
yeah, thank you very, very much.
Great. Yes, thanks for the guidance. I thought y'all liked evening meetings.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, so issue number 2. We have a few slides here, but it's just kind of background to make sure everybody's kind of level set. So I think a lot of you have heard of, at least, and may even be familiar with community solar. In Illinois, you can put solar on your roof, which is great. Then there's great big solar arrays out in the country that are hundreds of megawatts. They're gigantic, and they put power into the interstate transmission system. In the middle is community solar, and the trick with community solar is they're a bit smaller, and for them to receive their funding, they need to share their benefit with residents. So what they do is they issue subscriptions. A subscription to community solar is basically a share of the output from the community solar resource. So, and the diagrams start with A. You get residents, you businesses, anybody that's served by Commonwealth Edison can claim a share of a community solar farm. They claim that share, it's a subscription through a contract. When that community solar farm generates electricity under B, that electricity goes into the ComEd distribution system. It does not go to the subscriber's house, right? It just gets mixed with everything else. But ComEd tracks how much electricity is coming off that farm. And then on a monthly basis, they credit the bills for each of the subscribers for their share of the electricity from that community solar farm. So we've done this through Metropolitan Mayors Caucus. Right now, this deal is worth about $250 per household in terms of net savings. So the consumer gets credits on their bill from ComEd. They pay 80% of those credits to the developer, so they're sharing the revenue, right? There's no money down, anything like that. So it's a good deal for consumers. So under the most recent long-term renewable resources procurement plan, in response to the Climate and Energy Jobs Act that was passed last year, there is a carve out. There's a new kind of community solar in Illinois, and it's called community-driven community solar. So instead of a private developer running out to far west suburbs or out to rural portions of the state and connecting to the ComEd system and selling subscriptions, this is intended to bring those community solar farms and resources closer to the population. And to do that, they're offering through the the adjustable block program, much higher levels of compensation for resources, community solar resources that can be built in our area, right? So what are the requirements? So first is community ownership. There has to be a minimum 50% ownership for the community or a nonprofit serving that community. It has to be community benefits, something beyond the subscription. So it has to be educational, social, environmental, other types of benefits have to be part of the package as well. You can partner with a private developer. That's probably how it works. But you know what this whole issue is about is bringing these resources into the communities that they serve. Okay, so they really want to tie those resources to the community. And lastly is meaningful involvement. And that's where there are processes, not dictated, but there has to be some type of a process that takes input from the public in terms of the planning, operation, perhaps even the financing of the asset. So again, they're really trying to tie this in, and to incentivize this, they're increasing the incentives. So what I did here, I did a little cut and paste from portions of the long-term renewable resources plan. The graph on the top, or I'm sorry, the table on the top, ComEd is in Group B, so all the way over on the right. Go down the list on the top table, you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down. Right beneath public school projects is community-driven, community solar. So that is the amount of volume that the Illinois Power Agency is going to seek to place. So 23 megawatts is a lot. No, it's about 11 standard size community solar farms. That's a good start. It's about 5 large size community solar farms. That would it would probably be it would probably serve something like close to 100,000 households all told. So it's a good start. Look down to the bottom table again in Group B and see the traditional community solar. That's what we're all familiar with right now. They have higher incentives for smaller projects, but almost all those projects are 2,000 kW to 5,000 kW. So that's going to take anywhere from 12 to 30 acres, right? On the community-driven community solar, you see that the incentive levels are quite a bit higher, and that again, that's part of the incentive to try to get these projects to actually occur. What I think might make sense for these communities is to focus on smaller projects, because you don't tie up as much land and you get even higher incentives with smaller projects. So here's an example. We did an assessment for the Public Works facility up in Lake Forest. Very nice facility. They have about 60,000 square feet of roof space. Based on some bids that we received in, that could host about a 700 kW solar array. About 1.1 million kilowatt hours of annual generation, which would, again, is it going to change the world? No, but it's a good use of that space. This building is what's called a franchise account, meaning that they get a bill from ComEd that is zero every month. And it's zero because ComEd provides a credit in lieu of payment to the city of Lake Forest for the use of the rights of way throughout the municipality. So it wouldn't make sense to put solar on that roof and use the electricity at that building, because there'd be no savings, right? You'd pay for the system, but you wouldn't. You're still at zero in terms of your costs. So maybe the better way to do this is to put the solar array up there. Instead of feeding it into the building, feed it to the transformer. That means you're exporting that electricity out to the grid. And now you have a community solar project right in the middle of Lake Forest that can serve maybe 110 households. And the municipality could probably take some revenue from leasing its roof. So parking lots, I think, is kind of in the same arena here. City Hall, usually our franchise accounts, public service or public works buildings as well. So the concept here is, okay, well, maybe we should dig into this and find a structure, a deal structure, and some developers who would be willing to work under that deal structure to bring these types of projects into MMC communities, those that are interested. And there's going to be continued funding year after year, so we don't have to, elbow each other. But I think that instead of trying to go it alone, what people can do on their own, that's fine. But I really wonder if maybe we could do a little planning, put a pattern out there, and then that pattern might help guide municipalities to adopt this if they're interested. So that's about it. I mean, we haven't gone too deeply into this, but it looks like an opportunity, and we just wanted to bring it forward to the group.
Mark, just a quick question, and forgive me if this is utterly sophomoric, but 1 million kilowatts generated per year, I think you equated that to approximately 100, 110 homes would benefit. Is that the simple math I should use moving forward on kilowatt hours produced and how many homes, or is that just a...
Right. The average home in Northern Illinois uses about 10,000 kilowatt hours a year. That's a single family home.
Okay.
An apartment is about half of that, so about
Okay.
5,000.
Got it. Okay.
Some communities larger, some smaller,
Of course, yeah. And now, does my question also help me advance through your course so I can automatically graduate and not have to worry about taking all
You could teach it.
No, not a good idea. So.
Mark, we have a couple questions in chat, and please, folks, give us your thoughts on this, because this is a brand new idea. Mark actually just proposed this yesterday. He's been working on it, but we want your discussion on it. So Dave Wilms asks about the great opportunity for community solar. Can a person with solar on the roof also sign up for community solar? And are there options for wind for municipalities too? Are there any credits on wind?
I'm not aware of wind credits or special carve out for wind credits for community wind. There may be. I'd be happy to go and look. We haven't focused too much on wind because the permit and easement constraints are pretty severe. And there's also the need to get special authorization or permissions from the FAA if you're within a certain distance of a regional or international airport. So we don't see too many wind turbines going in. I'm not against them. I'm just not thinking that it's as replicable or scalable as the solar option. What else was in that basket of questions?
Mark, there's one from Sarah Pfeiffer and Wilmette. Will ComEd be implementing net billing for community solar?
There's an Illinois Commerce Commission order that says they will, to which ComEd said, we'll get to it when we'll get to it. So yes, sometime. It would be great if they could.
And Leslie's question, Mark, what % of the 100 homes electric use will be the 700 kilowatt system offset?
That would be about 100%.
Yeah, that's what Leslie said. Okay, good.
And then timing, when would these projects, this is from Tim, are the incentives available now? Do we know what the competition is? How quickly would municipalities need to act?
The long-term plan was just approved about 2 months ago. So the IPA will be moving forward with accepting applications here. My understanding is it's probably something very late in the calendar year 22, something early in the year 23. There's a selection process where there's points awarded to projects that meet certain criteria. One of the criteria is running a competitive solicitation, gets you extra points in your selection stack. So that's something that we know how to do at the Mayor's Caucus, and that was kind of what led to the thinking about, how the Mayor's Caucus might be able to help communities organize to prepare for this.
And Mark, we have another question from Tessa Murray about the franchise agreement. If you could just explain a little bit more. Her understanding is that community members pay the cost of the free electricity for municipal franchise as a portion of their ComEd bill. Is that not the case?
No, that is the case. That's why I use the air quotes free.
Okay.
So it's no charge to the municipality, but it's not ComEd's money. ComEd collects the cost that they are crediting to the municipality from the residents and businesses that are located within those municipal borders.
And Mark, a question of my own. This is just something that I've always wanted to see happen for municipal space. This could be ground mount, right? It doesn't have to be a rooftop.
No, I'm just saying, look, you've got some facilities that might be suitable for solar, but economics don't work, so why not use it? So parking lots, open land, but just beware, you're gonna be tying up that land or that roof for 20 years, right? So highest and best use of land is not my expertise, but I know there's a lot of competing interest. They don't make too much of it anymore. So, I'm just trying to get some value out of some underutilized assets.
So this is the project I've always wanted to see is solar canopies for metro parking lots. As a metro user, there's a lot of pavement out there and it's never been economically feasible. Is there enough money in those incentives to make something like that work?
I think there is, with the right ownership structure. So with the changes in the Inflation Reduction Act relative to the investment tax credit, plus these credits, plus a little bit of good structuring on to be able to recover value for depreciation. Yes, I think you can.
And then, so can you talk a little bit more about, and maybe some of the committee members could also offer ideas for land or area, either rooftop or open space that is underutilized, that might suit, for a hosting arrangement. If you wanted to put those in the chat, but Mark, so you've got one model here that is looking at the rooftop of a 60,000 square foot roof space. Can you talk about other, what might a municipality need to host something like this?
It's going to be easiest if it's a site that is already receiving ComEd service. That would be helpful, because if you're remote from the ComEd distribution system, then the development has to pay the cost of installing infrastructure to connect the solar panel array to the ComEd system. And now things get complicated, right? Because now you're off your property and you're absorbing costs, sometimes significant costs. So having a location is good. If you're looking on top of your roofs, you really want to work with a facility that's had its roof replaced or will have its roof replaced in the next couple of years. Again, 20 years is the what you rule of thumb for these assets. You really ruin your economics if you have to take it off halfway through its life to replace the roof and then try to get the array back on the new roof. So I'd say, newer or soon to be new roofs would be your best location. Maybe near a larger facility means that it's closer to more substantial ComEd infrastructure. So, being in a park district picnic shelter might not have sufficient that has ComEd service, but that ComEd service is powering, a couple of light fixtures. That might not be robust enough to be able to push electricity back into that ComEd system. So again, you're going to absorb cost to make that system suitable. So I would go with, occupied facilities, fairly large, areas that aren't going to be needed to be disturbed for a long period of time. And so, you're seeing fewer and fewer facilities, but I think most municipalities have a pretty good idea of what their facilities are, where they're going. A lot of folks have roof inventories. I've seen a lot of them over the years. And I think, again, you don't have to come up with the perfect place. I think if we come up with a couple to begin with, we can prove out the pattern and then use that next cycle to expand out to include more municipal facilities.
Okay. And then I guess just to recap, this might be a good opportunity for those communities either that have already demonstrated their ability to get their residents engaged through our CS2 program, or that haven't yet, but have a lot of interest in municipal solar, where there's kind of a demand for this in the community. Right, so that's the community engagement piece.
Yeah, I'd like to volunteer us in our program to help with that subscription side of it, but that's not an obligation. I don't think, but I think we bring some value in that arena as well, because we have a ready-made system. So there's building the system, operating the system, then you've got to connect those residents transactionally to that system, right? So I think we can help structure the first two. And then that last leg is something that I think we have a lot of capacity to assist with within the CS Squared program.
Okay, Mark, one last question and then we'll wrap this up. So it's from Christina Murphy. I don't know if we know the answer to this. Are floodplains eligible? Do they have they set the terms?
I've seen some floodplain projects. It turns into a question of insurance and insurability. If you can't get insurance, you're not going to be able to build the asset. But we have seen some projects that have been able to find an insurance carrier that is willing to work with them. There might need to be some customization, higher type stands, but I think it can be done.
Okay, and one last question from Tim Milburn. Tax credits and accelerated depreciation. How might these instruments support these projects?
Well, traditionally, investment tax credits and depreciation, if fully monetized, cover 30 to 40% of the capital cost, or are equal to 30 to 40% of the capital cost of the project. In the past, to monetize those, you had to go through one of the primary banks, and you took about a 15% haircut when you did that. They'd buy your tax credits for 85 cents on the dollar and then resell them to someone who has a tax obligation, right? Under the Inflation Reduction Act, certain projects can receive a cash payment in lieu of a tax credit. So it means you get 100% of the credit in cash. And then for depreciation, that's still going to be something that's only applicable to a tax eligible entity. And that's why you're probably going to have some type of a team structure or special purpose entity structure where there's a private sector entity that can monetize depreciation, and then the public sector entity in there as well in a partnership agreement to fully monetize all these tax credits, but they're meaningful.
Okay, so thank you for that, Mark. I think it's a really exciting opportunity, and I'd like to invite the municipalities to think about this project, to kind of look around your community, discuss it. Let us know if you're interested, and we can always convene a cohort. We're good at that here. And I will also endorse Mark's idea that our CS2 sort of enrollment structure has been working pretty well. We have how many households?
We have 22 communities and about 1,400 or so
households already enrolled, so it's working pretty well. And I think it'd be really neat. It would scratch an itch that we've had for many years about having solar projects in our communities. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Mark, very much. We're going to move forward, folks, and Edith is going to take the lead on this next discussion. And we're talking about an element within CEJA that all of us are familiar with, and Edith's going to provide us some additional deep dive, and that is regarding the income qualified energy efficiency programs. The legislation, of course, requires that utilities in our region invest $100 million annually for these programs. It also establishes an income qualified energy efficiency advisory committee to guide these investments. Edith will describe how these programs are planned and what opportunities there are for municipal involvement. Edith, all yours.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to run through this program, and I'm going to talk about the program mandate for these income qualified programs, income qualified energy efficiency programs, if you're wondering about the abbreviation there, and then the targets that the utilities have and the legislation that establishes them, I'll talk about the opportunity with the advisory committee and opportunities in working as utility contractors or partners. And then I'll talk about a previous program that might be leading up to this, and then how this might impact or help communities in the future, as Kevin was saying about all the funding that's available for coming from the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act and the Inflation Reduction Act. So kind of first, back to CEJA. So some of you who've been with us for a while may recall that there was an income qualified program under FEJA, the predecessor to CEJA. But with the passage of CEJA, there's increased investment in utility investments mandated. And you'll see a little disagreement in terms of the naming. I think the legislation called it low income programs, and the advocates prefer income qualified as do the utilities. So that's why you'll see the kind of back and forth between the two. But we're talking about low income customers receiving benefits from the utilities for energy efficiency. And that has boosted to a total of more than $112 million each year for the ComEd region, which is those of us in Northern Illinois, and that's a huge amount of funding. You may also recall that the utilities filed these income qualified programs during the 4-year plans, which were approved by the Illinois Commerce Commission, also called Plan 6. And these plans we presented in our June Environment Committee meeting. So if you attended that meeting, you may have seen this slide, and we have that these slides up on the website with all our other Energy Environment Committee information, so you can review these presentations. But this actual slide from Peoples and North Shore Gas, if you look at the gold circle there, this is what's budgeted for an annual spend for income eligible programs, looking at more than $12 million. And this plan is approved, now they just need to implement. And here's the slide from ComEd, which reviews their program, but again, now circled in gold there is the income eligible spend. And then they've got some details there into how they're going to allocate that funding for multifamily, for weatherization. And so this is $100 million a year that is for income eligible customers for energy efficiency. And so now to guide this enormous investment, it's a little bit of a tail wagging the dog. These programs were mandated, and at the same time, the utilities are required to support the creation of an income qualified energy efficiency committee, or that acronym there, which is LEAC, Low Income Energy Efficiency Advisory Committee. And the CEJA established this, and the purpose is to design implementation and evaluation of these programs. So the programs are launched, the committee is somewhat launched, but it's just at the very beginning stages. And you'll see that this unique, which is a good idea, is that there's bundling and coordinating delivery of low income energy efficiency and other programs, such as the Illinois Solar for All, bill payment assistance programs, the weatherization programs, and such that are not necessarily completely managed by the utilities. And again, this advisory committee is funded by the utilities. Of course, we're interested in the ComEd portion of the territory. Ameren has a committee of their own in Southern Illinois, and there's just a North and a South income qualified energy efficiency committee. So this is now where it gets a little bit interesting, and I may ask Chet to share some of his experiences when I get through this about participation in the committee. So the committee was launched in June, and they hired a facilitator with some legacy involvement from FEJA. So there's a little bit of transition there, but this new CEJA-based committee requirements includes, it's a table for the utilities to sit at with their program implementation contractors, other not-for-profit organizations, the community action agencies, which are the ones distributing and managing the LIHEAP program and income qualified programs. Some of them are counties, which some of the folks are on the call with us, advocacy groups, and then of course I'm highlighting state and local governments, public housing organizations and such. There is a focus on those living or working with environmental justice communities and Black, Indigenous, and people of color communities, or BIPOC. So this is where it kind of gets interesting. So you can apply to be a member of this community-based organization. And as we're seeing in a lot of work on equity, you can be compensated for attending and participating in this. And Chet has been the brave soul, as well as Brad Roos from Rockford, who has been just attended the first meeting to understand how this is being shaped up. To be eligible for participation in this community, you must be a community-based organization as defined by CEJA. And if we can take a bow here, as we were involved in the CEJA negotiations, you may know we didn't have a lot of say in how the legislation was being shaped, but we did have an environment committee meeting with all of the advocates for the bill, and we had expressed a real desire to make sure that community-based organization, that definition, includes local governments, and we succeeded. So we'll have to take a bow, everybody on the Environment and Energy Subcommittee, and to Mark for carrying that message forward, because we are now eligible to participate in both this advisory committee and then future grant opportunities because we are defined as a community-based organization. And I won't read it there, but you can see I highlighted it, and I chuckled when I saw the definition of the community-based organization, because I would say all municipalities have at least one main operating office in the community that it serves, check, and that we have relationships with local residents and other organizations serving the communities. So I'm going to strongly encourage participation in this program or in this advisory committee. And I'll go to the leadership team next. We'll kind of wrap up with how to get involved in this. The leadership team, and this is a meeting that both Chet and I attended, where it seemed as if the leadership team was established as a legacy from FEJA. And I will say that so they're guiding the distribution of grant funds for implementing this program that are made available to the utilities, and they're setting the policy agenda. What are the priorities for these programs for both the North and the South? And then Chet and I observed that there are currently no municipal representatives on this, and there are no suburban representatives. So we take issue with that because comment territory covers all of Northern Illinois. And I will say that they are changing the structure of that, and we are seeking volunteers to serve on that leadership team to help set the agenda and make sure that municipalities have an opportunity to benefit from some of these programs and investment. And these grant opportunities, now all of this is emerging. Again, it just got launched in June. They've had one meeting, I think 2, and they're restructuring already a little bit. But CEJA allows for grant opportunities for committee members, back to the committee membership. And the grants will focus on energy efficiency, education, and outreach topics broadly defined. The grant applications are not done yet, nor is the leadership committee completely gelled, or I should say it's being reconfigured, as well as a membership application. But the grants are not insignificant. Grants of up to $25,000 for providing energy education and outreach to your community. Again, municipalities are eligible here. There is one more opportunity that I am seeing, and that is the utilities have what are called implementation contractors, and they're looking to diversify the current pool of contractors. They're looking for diverse representation, and they are now soliciting, as you can see, I just copied this from an email that I got. As a community-based organization, they're looking to identify volunteers, who could possibly contract. And I'm believing that some of the municipalities could be considered community-based contractors serving the utilities. And laying the groundwork for this, you may know, as we talked about the ISEF project earlier, that for many ways we've been scheming about this with the anticipation that this funding would eventually occur. Mayors Caucus has been involved in energy education and the energy efficiency programs for many years and did not see the municipalities at the table going back to FEJA. So we requested and then have been funded by the Illinois Science Energy Innovation Fund, or ISEF, which by the way is ComEd funded, to establish pathways. And Cheryl and I have been working at this for a couple of years to try to figure out the best way for municipalities to be involved. Just a note there, as I said at the beginning when we were presenting on the Energy Academy, is that CEJA ends the ISEF structure for funding grant programs. Hence our desire to have this last hurrah as an energy academy. But the purpose of the funding was to optimize municipal pathways to, I don't remember the rest of the grant program, to engage customers, in smart energy use and improve energy literacy. And with the help of this committee, we've been exploring many different options for municipalities to share information and to promote energy efficiency. And in our final year here, we've landed on community education, community events, and communication tools as the best way for municipalities really to easily participate and share information. And isn't it kind of convenient that now the grant funds are there for this kind of energy information and outreach? And I have to brag about the amazing website that Cheryl did. There's a link there, and she's probably already put it in the chat. Should we share this? Let me just click on that and see if I can share the website. It is an amazing resource of, I'm not sure on my screen.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah,
it's in the chat.
It's in the chat. Okay, so you can take a look at it. It is an amazing resource of this information that is ready for you to share out. And I can't speak totally for the way the grant structure will be created, but it could be as easy as that you take these wonderful newsletter bites and social media posts and all this great information that Cheryl has untangled over the years and share it. And that could be considered education and outreach. So that's kind of the hope that this is how this is all going and that it will work out for us. And then just one other, I spoke with the facilitator for the low-income energy efficiency program yesterday, and she's sort of underscored how important it would be for us to have an infrastructure for engaging on energy efficiency. And as Kevin said at the beginning of the meeting, because there's I think our colleague from US EPA said it was an insane amount of money coming for low-income energy efficiency, especially for environmental justice communities. And if we have contractors and pathways to be sharing this information, knowledgeable advocates and staff and communities, the sustainability commissions who are doing these events and sharing this information, we could be in a good position to receive more funding that will go to the residents of your community that are eligible. And I just put a couple of highlights there from what's likely to come through the Inflation Reduction Act for energy efficiency. And then the last kind of question or thought that I had at the bottom of the slide there is just about putting this municipal infrastructure and partnerships in place now to both receive the CEJA related funds and to position ourselves for IRA funds in the future. And one reminder here is just, we've always said when we started the ISEF project, Cheryl and I noted that it was 26% of the emissions in our region come from residential energy. And if you were on the last Environment Committee call, the proportion has shifted and we're now up to 37% of our emissions are from residential buildings. So this is a really important sector to focus on. You can also look at the manufacturing and industries, because our next speaker will talk about, one of the later speakers will talk about that as a sector too. But this is really important climate action. And I think it's an area that we could do and do well. Did I miss a slide on how to, here we go. Get engaged on income qualified. So I'm going to talk through this, and then Chad, I'm going to ask you if you want to make any comments on your observations or participation. But so what as I said, there was a legacy involvement of this FEJA related leadership group, and then apparently some noise that we made with the Rockford folks, politely, of course, that a meeting has now allowed for some revisiting of and inclusion across the region, and we're really kind of happy to see that. So there is, if you go to the link that I have there on the Income Qualified Advisory Committee, you can read about it, but we're advised that none of the forms, like there's a membership application, is that will be revised, and that there will be a call for leadership members to serve on the advisory committee. So don't apply for it yet, but if you want to click on that link, you can sign up to be on the list to get informational updates. I was also invited to provide a list of our environment committee, energy subcommittee. We could just do that if you prefer to enroll, have everybody eligible for that. So respond in the chat how you feel about getting added to that list. So then you'll get updates as this is emerging very, very quickly. The leadership team needs to get reconfigured, and if somebody, we have some folks that are very engaged who would be willing to serve on that leadership committee. We really need a municipal voice, and I'd be very happy to support you on that. There will be these stipends or compensation directly from the utilities for your participation, which I have to say is a little weird for municipalities to get paid to attend meetings, but there it is. And so that's, I'll talk a little bit more about the next three goals, but Chet, do you want to say anything about your observations or your thoughts on this? You have attended.
Yeah, you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. As a coincidence, if this meeting ends at 11:30, I'm going to be on another call with the City of Rockford's the mayor's office, and the main issue, or not an issue here. Okay, the main issue is that the heating assistance right now is through what they call a CAA, and that's the Rockford Housing Authority, and they not only cover Rockford, but they cover Winnebago County and Boone County. I guess it's like 400,000 people. And I'm trying to find out if they know about this, number one, okay, because I haven't seen their participation in any of the groups. And number two is, do they want to go along, or would they encourage a community-based organization? I really don't want to intrude on them and make it look like we're providing oversight to them and make it look more like a partnership, which it would be. I want to thank you, Edith, for interceding in here. As this thing started about 2 months ago, it looked like it was going to run off in a direction that was rather limited, and now it looks like we can probably be more active in this regard. So anyway, number one, I'll report back to you, or at least give you some information. Number one, about what the conversation today is going to be. And then number two is that if I can arrange something in a short term, either directly with the mayor's office or with the Rockford Human Services Department, I'll let you know how it goes. So, this is rather new. And I think that those organizations around the state that mostly are the community action agencies are more used to the heating, and really are not looking beyond this, whatever the real amount is, $110 million a year in the ComEd territory, to how that would be spent, administered, et cetera, et cetera. So anything else, Edith?
So yeah, just one comment there is, I think the utility programs are being called, the term is braided. So the utilities are working together so that there should be a little bit more of a one-stop shop, trying to align the gas programs with the low income programs like the weatherization with the electric energy efficiencies programs. So that's the plan. But what Ched has outlined is exactly what I would like to see all of the communities do, is kind of think about, if there is the funding available and if there's an interest, is that you prepare yourself as these programs evolve. So would the municipality be interested in serving on the LIAC committee, or would you want to maybe tap the volunteers from your sustainability commissions, but to potentially be involved in that, looking at the time commitment for that? Or do you have other partners in your communities, like Community Action Agency or other not-for-profit groups that could represent you? And the idea is to try to participate as these programs evolve, so that when the funds are available, you're ready and you've got a mechanism in place to receive these funds and to participate as contractors. So exactly, and the fact that the Rockford Housing Authority doesn't know about it is probably true of everyone, because you saw there's no municipal involvement in this advisory committee to date. So we're trying to correct that. But if you would, make sure that you're receiving information and think about that in your community. Would there be a role for someone to be involved, potentially on the advisory committee. I think that's actually a no-brainer. Everyone should be involved in the advisory committee if you represent low-income communities. Potentially think about serving as a contractor to the utilities as those opportunities emerge, and think about what offices in your municipality could be a part of this. I would say it would be a really good idea to make sure that you know what your low-income residents, where they are, how many households you might serve, what mechanisms you have in place to already reach them, just if it comes to that in a grant application. Even if you don't have, if you're not predominantly low income, you could say these are the households we would serve, and this is how we'll do it. And that would be ready for a grant request. And then if you have, and it's sometimes awkward for municipalities to receive a grant, if you want to think about the mechanism for receiving funds and spending those grants, I think this would be a really good time to prepare. And then of course, this ties back to the Energy Academy in terms of capacity building. So I guess with that, let me check, you have a question, see if there's other.
Yeah, I wanted to make one more comment. In talking to people, there are a few people that understand that CEJA, okay, goes beyond solar. It's kind of amazing. There's very little out there. And in regards to the committee so far, the meetings, the stressing has been on jobs. And I haven't heard very little. I've heard very little about energy efficiency, even in those meetings. So I think that's got to be part of our mission, to let people know that it's not just about energy, and it's not just about solar. It's pervasive to all the energy activities and all the connectors, creating businesses, employing people, training, et cetera, and not just one little piece of the pie. So just wanted to make sure that that was clear.
Thank you, Chet.
Yeah, well said.
So I'm going to accelerate a little bit here because I talked longer than I thought. So I am going to, we're going to ask your thoughts on this. So we have a poll here. Would your community be interested in serving as a community-based organization to educate and engage income qualified residents about energy efficiency, assuming grant funds are available? So if you would vote on that poll. Is it visible?
Hmm.
Oh. Another 15 seconds on the poll. Okay. It looks like we've got quite a few folks interested in participating. Thank you for that. Got one more related question. So this question relates to who in your community or how you might manage if there are energy efficiency and outreach and education. Would municipal staff do it? Would you assign responsibility to your sustainability commission, another organization, some combination thereof? You would give us some answers there. Okay, a few more seconds. Excellent. All right, so great mix there of who might lead, and you've got some, a few of you need to think about that, but that's exactly the reason for bringing this to your attention. And then I would just say, in conversations with the organizer of this yesterday, they said, just send us your list of municipal folks, and we'll get everybody enrolled in the update. So put in your chat if you're strong feelings about not getting signed up for a mailing list on this. Don't think it would be a lot. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to you, Kevin, so we can get through other speakers.
Fantastic. The next opportunity stems from the Federal Department of Energy. We have a great relationship, as all of you know, with the Illinois Solar Energy Association, who encouraged us, supported us, motivated us as we work to earn Soul Smart designation for our member communities. And by the way, Illinois is the #1 state in the nation with the most Soul Smart community designees. So that's cool stuff. ICEA is now working with the Department of Energy to further speed up solar permitting with SolarAPP Plus. Lisa Albrecht, who's joining us this morning, has been in the solar industry since 2007, designing and installing residential and commercial systems throughout Northern Illinois. Having worked on FEJA and CEJA, Lisa has partnered with the Illinois Solar Energy Association to assist municipalities in streamlining their permitting process across the state. And I can speak personally and passionately how helpful she was in the city of Geneva. Preparing for solar growth in Illinois with SolarAPP. Ladies and gentlemen, Lisa Albrecht.
Great. Thank you so much, Mayor Burns. I really appreciate MMC letting us sneak into your very packed agenda. And we're thrilled to be here. Can you hear me okay?
Sure can. Perfect.
Perfect. All right, great. I just have a couple quick slides. I promise to be brief, respecting the calendar. So for those of you who are familiar or are not familiar, we are the Leslie McCann, Executive Director, is also on today. We are the Illinois Solar. We actually play on our name twice. We're the Illinois Solar Energy Association, as well as the Illinois Solar Education Association, which is our 501c3, and education or energy is our 501c6. We've been working in Illinois since 1975. So folks may not realize that solar is that old in Illinois, but we've been around for a really long time. And we're really excited to have the two primary functions, one on the education side, really doing a lot of public education. The solar tour just happened the last weekend of September. Tim Milburn was a host on that. So thank you, Tim. And then, there's a lot of activity that's happening there. And then the energy side is really where our advocacy work is, where we're working on government policies. We've worked heavily on CEJA. We were involved with FEJA. I was lucky enough to be actually in the audience when FEJA was voted on. So it's been a long journey. I've been in the industry since 2007. Primarily working on residential and small commercial. And in 2018, I opened my own business, Albright Solar, and now am actually a consultant for Illinois Solar Energy Association. I've been on the board since 2008, just really working hard at getting all the work done. So for those that might not be aware, to date, you may have noticed that as you're traveling around, there's more and more systems showing up every time you look around. If you start looking, not necessarily at traffic, but glancing at rooftops as you're walking your dog or driving through communities, we actually, since the passage of FEJA, have installed about 35,000 systems across the state. The exciting thing is that solar is now in every single zip code. So when it comes to government policy, FEJA and CEJA combined have been really remarkable pieces of legislation that have really done their goal, and that is drive adoption of solar throughout the state. That is both, this number of 35,000 is residential, but there's, in addition to that, thousands of commercial as well as community solar projects. And so it's really exciting to see Illinois really as one of the major drivers in the country. With the Inflation Reduction Act, analysts are actually now predicting that solar is going to triple in the next 5 years. So the green line represents the original forecast before the passage of the IRA. And you can see the bar charts are actually demonstrating where those numbers have shifted since passage. Diving deeper into just the residential numbers, since they're kind of buried with utility on that last chart, you can see here the bar charts represent the new forecasts since the Inflation Reduction Act was passed. And again, the green line is the forecast prior to that legislation. So it's really exciting to see, just how tremendous. In fact, right now we have about 129 gigawatts of solar installed across the United States. And the forecast now is that by 2027, we'll have 335 gigawatts. So really just tremendous growth. On the residential factor, we've actually gone from 1.6 gigawatts, and we actually have had a 37% growth year over quarter. So Q2 2021, we had a 37% growth by Q2 2022. And that was on top of some issues with the Department of Commerce and panels coming into the country, but the growth has been tremendous. If I zoom specifically into Illinois, you can see, with passage of FEJA, the program implemented in January of 2019, and you can see year over year growth from 2019 to 2020, keeping in mind that 2020 was COVID. And so despite, the challenges that COVID brought, the industry saw exponential growth and completely unprecedented growth. We, before 2019, we barely made it onto this graph. And so it's really exciting to see kind of what's happened year over year. 2021, we ran out of incentives, which was why it was so important to have CEJA passed, which we were excited happened just about a year ago. And so even with that uncertainty, we were able to stabilize and continue installations to almost to the level of 2022. And then using the data that I pulled is from the Illinois Power Agency, and it goes through June 30th, 2022. So even without, the number was almost equal to 2021. So we're going to see incredible numbers happening in 2022 and beyond. So we really just want to make sure that municipalities and AHJs are prepared for this level of growth. These are numbers that we've not seen before. So really looking ahead, we can no longer really use the past to predict the future because solar is definitely here. I know most of I call them competition, but they're also my colleagues in the industry. We're struggling just to keep up with demand and being able to have enough workers in the space to be able to install. So the interest levels are tremendous. So what the Department of Energy has come up with is they recognize that these levels of growth are going to have unintended consequences specifically for AHJs. And so NREL, the National Renewable Energy Lab, partnered with some really strategic relationships, including UL, the International Code Council, as well as a number of others, which I'll highlight in a moment. But what they came up with is how can we streamline, because at the moment, specifically in Illinois, almost every single AHJ has a slightly different process for how a permit goes through, which adds a lot to the timing, but also a lot to the soft costs. And so looking to make sure that solar continues to be affordable, and even more so as we continue to grow, how can we work on those soft costs? So the Solar Automated Permitting Process, or SolarAPP, and it's, I wish the name, because we all have apps on our phone, and so it kind of seems like it's not Angry Birds, but it's an automated permitting process that really has a tremendous amount of math and science on the back end. What it is an advanced no-cost permitting software platform that has been developed and is easily deployed. When installers go and submit their application, the information that goes in will actually do a very strict code compliance check, both on electrical information as well as structural. And if there's any code issues, then that permit application is denied, and it will actually let the applicant know what corrections need to be handled. So the great news is that what this can do is is not for all solar, it's for residential solar that fits a specific bucket. So it's small systems that are typically on a pitched roof. And so that should take 50 to 75% of all permitting applications out of the municipal's permitting queue, hopefully freeing up staff to do other things. Solar is no longer an unknown. It's very cookie cutter. And this permitting process that's been developed will help streamline offering instant permits as soon as a application has been approved. Additionally, what's really cool is that it will also generate a site-specific inspection checklist that inspectors can take out into the field with them. So we no longer have that uncertainty of, if you've got an inspector who maybe hasn't seen a lot of solar, this is actually a fantastic tool that they can have in their pocket to make sure that they're checking all the boxes And what we have found, there's about 10,000 systems that have been implemented, that have been installed through this permitting platform. And what they have found is that inspectors are still catching about the same percentage of errors, and those corrections are being made out in the field. So we're continuing to make sure that we are meeting those public safety demands that are so critical as part of the permitting process. The platform also does allow municipalities to continue to collect their online fee payment structures that have already been in place. And so it really integrates with your permitting process as we move forward. Some of the key benefits, obviously, it's going to save building departments time and money. I was actually on the phone with the municipality last week, and he said, Lisa, all I'm doing is solar permits. I have to do something else. This cannot be my entire focus because I have other permits that I need to be working on. So we're already in conversations about moving towards that. So we're going to make sure that we still are focused on code compliance and making sure that we're still having safe systems, but we're doing them at a much faster clip with less burden on the municipality, and making sure that installers are still getting those installations done. What we have also found with the municipalities that have already adopted this in the country is that they're actually able to accept 5 to 14% more solar growth in their community over traditional permitting. It also very simply will integrate with anybody who's already on Acela or Energov, or you could also do just a standalone platform. So there's a lot of things that the system does. For those that are on the phone that may be SolSmart, adopting SolarAPP will also allow you to get credits that could move you to gold. And IREC is actually in the process of potentially developing platinum levels as well. So if you've already in a community that has taken some of those steps, thank you very much. And this is actually SolSmart on steroids. So really making sure that you have all the tools that are necessary to build in your community. As I mentioned, this was a massive collaboration between a lot of really well-known entities to make sure that we are not losing anything by moving to this platform. International Code Council, actually Underwriter Laboratories will actually be taking over this process from NREL next year. But the International Association of Electric Inspectors has endorsed this, and the US Mayor Caucus actually passed a resolution in August of last year. So you can see this has a lot of players in the background. This was not something that was developed overnight, but really is something that aims to allow communities to transition to that clean energy resource without burdening the municipality on that, on those growth rates that we're anticipating. In order to assist municipalities, there's a fantastic prize opportunity. The application is right around the corner. We do need to submit applications by November 4th, but it's a very easy lift in terms of application. It's really just a questionnaire, basic contact information, what's happening in your community, and a letter of support from the municipality to say, we're super excited about that. 67 prizes of $15,000 will be awarded. That's $15,000 each for each of those 67 communities. And that excludes California. And California just last week passed legislation, or last month, passed legislation requiring them to move to an instant permitting process. So when you think of the 1 million+ systems that have already been installed in California, they recognize that this no longer is a new thing. This is something that we can cookie cutter and process very affordably within our communities. So it's an easy application. I'm super happy to help people. We do have a couple of polls that we wanted to run through. But if your municipality or HJ is interested in this, you can please reach out to me, and I'm happy to provide any resources necessary, either to speak with your municipality about SolarAPP itself, or help with the solar prize application. I didn't mention those that are accepted into the prize. It's a 2-step process. One, you apply. And then if you're accepted through your application, accepted communities need to have installed the platform and have it functioning no later than April 27th, 2023. You still have 5+ months in order to get implemented. And it's a pretty streamlined process. And NREL, the National Renewable Energy Lab, is getting better at it every day. So with that, let me take a peek at the chat. Hopefully I was able to Yeah, go
I love
ahead.
the app. The app is fantastic.
Yeah,
Wow.
thank you for that.
Okay, you got a lot in, Lisa. It's Leslie. Thank you so much. I just want to mention that the poll is up on the screen. I
Right.
didn't know if you were able to see that, Lisa.
Oh, thank you.
And, if folks have more specific questions, you can put them in the chat and maybe we can address them either in the group if there's time, or we can reach out to you later.
Yeah. So Christina, thank you so much for that. And thank you, Cheryl, for putting the link to the solar prize. I really appreciate that. Christina asked if there's any municipalities locally. Not yet, but we have had some really strong conversations in the last week or two and have already gotten one municipality that has applied for the prize. And so we're really excited about doing this. I emailed many municipalities in the last week or two, and I have definitely gotten responses back that folks are listening to this. Prior to me, there was Anson Moran who was working on it. And, these things I think take a little bit of time for people to feel comfortable with the adoption rates. But now that SolarAPP has successfully permitted well over 10,000 permit applications on the platform, I think that gives people the confidence that this is tested and true, and able to really start moving locally as well.
Fantastic.
Did we do the poll?
We've got one poll. It looks like the second poll.
I think they were going to come out as one.
There we go.
There
Oh,
you
there we
go.
go.
There we go. I see both questions are there. Now I understand, Cheryl. But yeah, I'm more than happy to have a conversation, hop on the phone with your sustainability department, with the mayor's office, with your building departments, and really just outline, there's so many great resources that we have at our fingertips. And I'm the local extension from the Department of Energy and NREL, making sure that this happens in Illinois. And I will proudly say that Illinois is one of the top, well, actually, I think the second most important state identified to the DOE. So of course, all states are important, but they definitely recognize the eventuality that CEJA will create in really having solar explode across all municipalities throughout the state.
Fantastic. Thank you, Lisa.
Yes.
And I promise you, Geneva's going to be in touch with you. Guaranteed.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Folks, there's going to be more clean energy opportunities stemming from the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act and the Inflation Reduction Act. And according to our colleagues at the US EPA, significant investment in environmental justice communities. Our last clean energy program opportunity comes from utility funds aiming to reduce industrial and commercial energy use through strategic energy management. Our 2015 regional GHG inventory reports that 40.6% of emissions come from industrial and manufacturing sector. Molly Mullenkamp works at Clear Result as the Associate Program Manager for Strategic Energy Management, a jointly sponsored energy efficiency offering from ComEd and Nicor Gas. SEM is a holistic approach to managing energy use, focusing on behavior and operational change to achieve persistent energy savings over the long term. Please welcome our friend, Molly, who will take it away. Thanks, Molly.
Thank you very much for that introduction. Let me just get some sharing action going on.
Looks good, looks good.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Kevin. And
Thank you.
be here with you all today. As mentioned, I'm going to share some information about the Strategic Energy Management Program, or as we refer to it as SEM, and how our program can support communities. In the support communities, the MMC represents local industries. This is a utility-sponsored program that is at no cost to participate and offers incentives for energy savings. Although, as Mark mentioned earlier, like other efficiency programs, it is funded by ratepayers. And it's also a joint program, so participating provides access to both benefits from ComEd and Nicor Gas through strategic energy management. First, I want to start off with what strategic energy management is. I know it's a lesser known energy efficiency program from the utilities. This definition from the Consortium of Energy Efficiency sums it up pretty well. Our program works with utility customers to track and measure their energy consumption. We support participants in engaging their employees and management to reduce their energy waste. And we work with customers to develop and implement efficiency projects that focus on behavioral and operational changes. And so there are several elements of our program design that support these goals of SCM. Utility customers who join SCM commit to a year of participating in program activities. So the program starts with developing an energy team who will participate and support the implementation of efficiency projects in their organization. At the same time, our team does a thorough technical review or energy scan of the participant's facility to make recommendations . From there, our rotation of efficiency projects all along the way. So at the end of the year, we'll compare the predicted energy usage to what was actually consumed from energy models in order to calculate those energy savings for customers. The key item to note is that energy management does not end at the end of 1 year in participating. Customers can choose to remain in the program as alumni participants and continue to earn savings incentives, or take this framework to manage their energy independently. This is where we emphasize the idea of continuous improvement to see persistent energy savings in the long term. And so why should customers participate in SCM? I think there are many reasons that kind of boil down to these 4 components. The first is that we are really looking for low and no cost ways to save energy that focus on those behavioral and operational shifts to find those little savings here and there throughout a facility over the course of a year that really add up to a lot. So this means that an organization doesn't necessarily need to invest capital up front in order to reap the rewards of energy efficiency. We're also working to create a culture of energy savings. We do this by supporting the energy and sustainability goals of the organization, developing engagement plans with employees or with management. And we're also working across a number of customers to help those network with fellow participants and participate in different workshops where we feature a variety of guest speakers on different related topics. Third, there are energy incentives affiliated with the program. So based on the energy modeling that's done over the course of the year and the energy savings that are calculated at the end of the year, we offer energy incentives at 2 cents a kilowatt hour for electric and 10 cents per therm for gas for the energy savings. Oftentimes customers see 2.5% or more energy savings in their first year of participating in SCM. And finally, participants receive individualized coaching support. They will meet with a dedicated energy coach in monthly check-ins to track their progress in efficiency projects, track that model and how much they're seeing in energy savings over the course of the year. And it doesn't end at the energy coach. We also have a team of engineers, data analysts that are supporting the coach along the way to provide additional information as needed. And finally, there's also a link to the utility energy efficiency programs. So participants can often work with that energy coach to talk about other programs that they may be interested in participating as well. And so our program, the ComEd Nicor Gas SCM program, is currently recruiting for next year. We work with a wide range of customers and industries in both the public and private sectors. So you can see some information here about common industries that we work with. So for the public sector, school districts is a great example. For public sector in particular, we'll aggregate multiple buildings in a portfolio to reach these consumption thresholds for participating. And then for the private sector, oftentimes they have those larger single facility sites as it is, and so they will often meet these consumption thresholds. Oops. Apologies. And I guess the final point is that when participating in SCM, there are a number of organizational attributes, such as having, the energy or sustainability goals, or having strong leaderships and accessible stakeholders that really make participating more effective when they're in the SCM program. And so I know Cheryl has a poll. We are interested in partnering with all of you to reach out to local private sector customers in your area. And so we're interested in understanding what some of the touch points are with local area industry.
Poll is still valid. So if you would also put in the chat what some of those touch points with municipalities are. And while we're waiting for her to come back, the program is doing outreach directly to the industries as well. We're just, again, looking to see what the municipal role might be in terms of advancing these programs and making these connections on behalf of the industry in your community.
Did we lose Molly through a connection?
We did.
Ah, bummer. Do you want to jump forward then, Edith, and talk about the energy?
Yes, let's do that. And so the last item, apologies, I hope Molly can join us back. That was a helpful presentation, but our last item, you don't have to think much for this one or take notes. We are, some of our partners, particularly through the ISAF Foundation, have established this really fun Energy Revolution exhibit, which is currently being hosted at the Chicago Architecture Center. There's a link in the chat. And we are invited. In fact, we wanted to try to make this work for today's meeting, but it wasn't going to happen. It just didn't work out that we were able to meet there. But if you are interested in participating, we're thinking of doing an outing for this group. And let me just get your thoughts on that for the Energy Revolution. So are you interested in doing a group outing to this? We would just meet there, and then we'd have funds, the grant funds, to get you a ticket into the event. Thank you to the one person who said they wants to come play with us, but anybody else interested?
That was me, by the way. So yes, I said, yes, I definitely want to go. Heck yeah, sounds like fun.
It would be an exhibit that would be of interest to this group.
And I trust this comes with overnight accommodations, breakfast in the morning.
Oh, the poll got closed. Oops, poll got closed. That's what I'm going to relaunch that. Sorry about that one. So here's your interest in that. There we go. That'll give it. Now we have 2 friends.
Yes. This is more friends than I had in high school.
It would be curated tour. Doug Farr, some of you may know him, has offered to lead our group.
Yeah.
We've got some interested folks. We're running a little long, so I'm gonna quick answer there.
And
Edith,
I'm going to have you wrap it up as well. So,
yeah.
And it looks like Molly has been able to join again. And we finished the poll so we can get those poll results to work.
Hey, Molly's back. Look at that.
Hey, Molly's back.
Sorry about that.
So we're doing some scheduling questions here for the Energy Revolution. So let us know your thoughts on that. If you when you might like to go, as a daytime or an evening.
And Molly, thank you very much for your presentation too. That was great.
Okay, so
of course, I'm sorry I cut out.
Oh, that's all good. I think Cheryl disconnected you on purpose.
We'll work on scheduling that. I'll let you wrap up, Kevin.
Thank you all for participating. We're sorry that we went a little bit late. Edith, the next Environment and Energy Committee meeting is
November. And I don't have that right in front of me, so I apologize.
15th.
The 15th.
We can cover that if you'd like.
Yeah, please do, because my screen just went
Sure.
hooey on me, so.
That's fine. So we're back to an environment committee meeting in person. And this is actually a topic area that was requested by some committee members to understand where the natural gas industry is going. So we're being hosted by the Gas Technology Institute, or GTI. We'll have a tour of the facility, which is kind of interesting. And then we'll have a discussion from both the utilities and some of the research team at GTI. So Cheryl has created, you can register for that meeting already. Will not be a hybrid. We're going to do it in person, right? And then there's also a meeting unrelated to energy, but an environment committee meeting. As you know, we've been doing a series of events on climate action and transportation, and there's been a series of webinars. The last of that, those events will be this Thursday, a noontime webinar on future of ADA transition planning to ensure equitable access for all. And that's everything.
Perfect.
Thank you all for being here.
Yes, thank you very much. And obviously, we're all available to you with any questions or comments. Thank you, our two presenters. We appreciate very much your time you put into your presentation. And we are off and running on a beautiful October day. Hopefully it's sunny where you are. If not, endure the rain, endure the mist. Have a great day, and thank you for participating. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
See you, Ben.